Earning a six-figure salary but still feel trapped? Here's a fear nobody says out loud. If this income stops, everything breaks. High income doesn't remove pressure, it concentrates it. People call this the golden handcuffs, earning well but feeling like walking away isn't an option. The common explanation is lifestyle creep, but that's not the real reason. The real reason is structural, and once you see it, everything changes. My name is Qin. I spent years in corporate leadership, earning well, yet still feeling financially fragile. I rebuilt my financial life, walked away from corporate, and wrote The Compound about what actually worked. I'll show you the framework that turns high income into real security and freedom. Let's start with why this feels so hard. High earners are often told they feel stuck because they're risk-averse or lacking courage. That's not what's actually happening. High income often makes the cage more expensive. There are three pressures happening all at once. Let me walk you through them. First, structural pressure. To earn £100,000 plus, you usually need to live in big expensive cities or commuting hubs. You face the school fees trade-off either way, through private fees or higher mortgage for catchment areas. Adding on top of it, there will be transport costs, childcare expenses that peak during the most demanding years, professional expectations around availability and presence. These aren't lifestyle choices you can easily reverse, because unwinding them would mean changing jobs, location, or identity. And often, all of this runs on one single primary income. When baseline costs are high, your margin for error shrinks very quickly. That's why you often hear people say, I've never earned so much, yet feel so stretched. It's a high fixed cost with very little slack. Then there's something people rarely talk about, pressure release spending. High-stress roles created pressure that has to go somewhere. When your work is intense and your days are tightly controlled, spending becomes one of the few places where choice still seems immediate. Not reckless spending, I'm talking about meaningful spending. The bike you've been wanting for years, the trip you postponed, upgrading something because you worked really hard for it. This isn't about showing off, it's about relief. The issue isn't that this spending exists. It's that when you combine it with a high fixed cost, thin buffer, and income doing all the heavy lifting, even small releases of pressure can destabilize the system with very little slack. You are not bad with money, you are regulating stress inside a system that leaves no room to breathe. Second, psychological amplification. You sit close to people earning more, enough becomes a moving target. One high earner told me, any pressure I pay for feels silly and short-lasting. I only feel middle class once I have $1 million or $2 million in equity. You are doing well, but it never feels like enough. Here's why this stage is so uncomfortable. At lower incomes, money's job is just survival. At a real wealth, money's job is optionality. But high earners sit in between, money in transition. And no one teaches you how to manage this phase. Suddenly, money could mean a range of things, safety or enjoyment, freedom or time. And because none of these has been prioritized yet, every decision feels loaded. Third, cognitive overload. You are time poor. You make decisions all day, so money decisions get pushed to late at night. You're not managing one time frame. You're managing 3 horizons at once. Near term, can I absorb a shock? Medium term, mortgage, childcare, school fees, etc. Long term, pensions, investments, future freedom. You can't be disciplined across all 3 simultaneously. And the advice doesn't help. You're doing too well for basic guidance, but not wealthy enough for bespoke planning. Most advice says it depends, which is true, but it's useless for you at 11 p.m. on Sunday. So you end up with decision paralysis, guilt around spending, or avoiding the whole thing entirely. If this feels hard, you're not failing. The system you're relying on was never designed for your level of income. Here's what changed everything for me. There are 3 shifts. Shift 1, income is not security. A high income feels powerful, but income just flows. It stops when you stop. Security comes from what income is turned into. You can earn a lot and still be fragile. If costs are high, buffers are thin, and everything depends on you showing up every single day. That's not security, that's exposure. Shift 2, Discipline doesn't scale, systems do. Most high earners are disciplined. You're pushing through, you're staying on top of things, making good decisions under pressure. But here's what we just talked about. You're already managing high cognitive load. You're juggling around 3 different horizons. You're regulating stress through spending. Adding more discipline doesn't solve the problem. It only adds to the load. Working harder, hustling on investments, trying to earn more, that keeps you working for money, not the other way around. The better return on effort, turning what you already earn into security, wealth, and freedom. And keep it simple. Money that moves on payday. Investments that stay invested. Buffers that can handle shocks quietly. Simple systems running in the background where you live your life in the forefront. You don't need more willpower. You need better systems. Shift 3. Money needs a job. Once you build some security, the question changes. You start asking, what is all this for? Without a clear direction, decisions can feel heavy again. Guilt showed up, whether you spend or you don't. You are doing the right things, but still feel dissatisfied. That anxiety you feel, that sense of being trapped, it doesn't come from doing things wrong. It comes from money not having a clear role in your life. But when the job of money is clear, spending isn't guilty, saving isn't pointless, work doesn't feel like a trap. Because you know what the system is in service of. This is a structure that stopped money from running my life. Security, capacity, choice. Layer 1, security. Design so nothing breaks. The first job of money isn't freedom. It's not breaking. Think in 3 different timelines. Near term, an emergency buffer. Medium term, saving pots for irregular costs. For example, house maintenance, childcare, holidays, etc. Long term, your pension. Start early, contribute steadily, let time do the work. Plus the unsexy essentials, insurances, a will, and no high-interest debt. The point is, you're building slack across all 3 timelines, so no single disruption can break everything. Layer 2, capacity. Build systems that carry the load. Once security exists, a different drain appears, mental load. Capacity comes from design, not discipline. This is where the calm system comes in. C stands for configure. It means money moves the day it arrives. Emergency fund, savings, investments, pension, they all happen before you actually see the money. A is align. Align money with your values, so you're not funding a life you don't actually want. Align money with your partner. It means autonomy with alignment, clarity with compassion. You and your partner are pulling in the same direction. Align money with your life stages, because what matters at 28 might be completely different when you're at 38. Limit means strategic guardrails that protect your choices. When the pot is empty, spending stops. The system makes the decision, so there's no tracking and no guilt for you. M is monitor. 30 minutes, 4 times a year. You only need to design it once and review it quarterly. Let the system carry the weight. Layer 3, choice. What the system is in service of. Once security and capacity are in place, choice becomes a real work. At that stage, I come back to 3 questions. What am I building towards? What trade-off am I choosing deliberately? And what tells me if this direction is still right? Here's how this showed up for me in real life. In my early 30s, I ran the numbers to understand what it takes for me to retire at 45. When I realized that it was possible, that clarity changed everything. I negotiated harder, I invested more in my own skills, I felt a sense of lightness at work. Criticism and setback can be reframed with more ease. Because I wasn't building a career for approval, I was building towards freedom. That vision didn't just increase motivation, it gave me a sense of freedom in mind at present, long before the numbers was reached. Then I became a mother. Early retirement at 45 all of a sudden stopped being the goal. Time freedom now mattered more. I walked away from corporate leadership last year, a choice that made retiring at 45 uncertain, likely unattainable. But the security I've already built, that's what made it possible for me to leave. The framework didn't tell me what to choose. It gave me the structure to choose without fear. So far, we have discussed the mindset shifts and frameworks. Let me make this concrete with my lived experience. In 2019, moving house nearly broke us financially. We had 2 good salaries, 2 properties. On paper, we were doing everything right. But the whole setup relied on timing going perfectly. One delayed rental income, one payroll glitch, we came dangerously close to missing a mortgage payment. Not because we didn't earn enough, but because we weren't turning the income into more security. Fast forward to 2024. We relocated to another country with a newborn, and it still feels quite unbelievable when I said this. Objectively, it was much harder. New country, new language, a baby, a dog, chronic sleep deprivation. If money had been another thing to manage, this move wouldn't have happened. What changed wasn't the challenges in life, it was the structure underneath it. We had a security this time, a boring house pot that absorbed unexpected costs without panic. We had capacity, automation that kept running while we were exhausted. We weren't making money decisions at midnight while learning how to be new parents. And that created choice. Our energy went into becoming parents and learning about the new country, not into, can we afford this? The second move wasn't calmer. It was harder. But in 2019, one disruption nearly broke us. In 2024, a much bigger disruption strained us, but it didn't destabilize us. All because the framework I share today was in place and made us structurally stronger. If there are only 3 takeaways from this video, I want them to be this. First, if you earn well but still feel anxious, it's not because you're failing. Life at this income level is genuinely complex. Second, high income doesn't create security, structure does. And third, once you recognize the issue is structural, you can design a system that turns income into real security, capacity, and freedom. When money works quietly in the background, you get your energy back for work, family, and life. That's why I wrote The Compound. If you want a full framework, the book and free guides are linked below. And if this resonated, leave a comment. What decision would feel lighter with the right structure underneath? I read every single one. I will be breaking down more real high-earner dilemmas in upcoming videos. How to buy back time, reduce pressure, and make bold decisions without fear. Subscribe if you want to go deeper. Thanks for watching. That's the calm next step. See you next time.